From shark attacks to killer whales. Stay tuned to number 1 to find out the truth about 10 of the most misunderstood animals in the world. Number 10. Pigs. I know, you're probably surprised that I'm starting off with this creature, but it's honestly because when you think of a pig, you think of the dirtiest creatures on the face of this earth, and a creature that is only good once it's fried up and in your stomach. But in all honesty, pigs are very intelligent creatures. I mean, there was a reason they became the leaders of the animal farm, if you remember that story. Pigs are very smart, and they know how to interact with one another as well as how to know when something is wrong or when something good is about to happen. But wait, you cry out. I've seen pigs roll around in the mud like slobs. How can you defend that? Well, have you ever asked yourself why they're rolling around in the mud? It's not because of the messiness, it's because of health. As pigs lack sweat pores, they use the mud as a heat shield of sorts to keep them from getting too hot. Considering how big pigs can get at times, I'll bet they get hot in the sun, and that proves their intelligence because they realize that the mud keeps them cool. Number 9. Bats. Oh yes, this is a classic. Bats are usually associated with one of two legendary figures. One is Batman, for obvious reasons that are for an entirely different list. But the other is Dracula. Dracula, the legendary vampire that can transform into a bat and back to human form and likes to suck people's blood. Because of his legend and the use of him in various media, bats are often labeled as bloodsuckers and are to be feared at all costs. But that's not really the case. Bats don't even suck blood. There's a vampire bat, but it's not what you think. When it comes down to the balance of nature, we actually owe bats our lives. How so? Well, bats primarily like to eat insects, and they're so good at catching them that they keep the insect populations down to very reasonable levels. So be thankful when you see a bat, if you see one at all. After all, they are nocturnal animals, and as long as you don't spook one, it'll just leave you be. Number 8. Crocs and alligators. Crikey, mate! When it comes to crocodiles and alligators, you're likely familiar with their antics on various animal documentary shows from Discovery Channel and Animal Planet. To be fair, crocs and alligators aren't to be messed with, as they will kill you, and there have been various cases of attacks on humans. But unlike what certain movies and TV shows portray, they're not aggressive animals, or at the very least, they won't run after you. They are very much first-strike predators. If you can get out of the way of their initial lunge and get a few feet away from them, you're good. Be aware of them, yes. Be careful if you're close to them, yes. But overly feel them when they're hundreds of feet away? Nah, you're good. Before we move on, take a moment to like this video and join the Zero to Hero community by using the buttons below. Number 7. Cockroaches. When you think about cockroaches, you likely think about how hard they are to kill at times, or how they can survive a nuclear explosion, which they can for the record. You also think about the many myths that surround them, like how they love to live in human homes, how they can spread disease easily, and stuff like that. There are over 30,000 species of cockroaches in the world, and guess what? Only about a dozen or so like to live in human dwellings, as most prefer the outdoors. Plus, while they can potentially pass a disease to a human, it's via a set of circumstances that are very, very easy to prevent. Not to mention that the germs honestly don't stay on them that easily. If you want to kill a cockroach when you see it, that's fine. Just don't think you have to go through a decontamination process after you do. Number 6. Killer whales. Who doesn't like Shamu, or Willy? Yet orcas are also known by a less flattering title, killer whales. And while we all love Shamu, we don't love the stories of whales harming their trainers at places like SeaWorld. But have you ever asked yourself the question about why whales have hurt their trainers? It's because they aren't meant to be in captivity in the first place. Out in the open ocean, there have only been a few killer whale attacks, and those were honestly accidents. In most cases, orcas welcome humans when they're in open water. So while whales are predators in their own right, and they can be killers, it's not as bad as you've been led to believe. Number 5. Rats. Okay, this one is tricky, because there are things that rats do that are very bad, but on the flip side, it's not as bad as you think. Most people think about the Black Plague when they think of rats, and it is true that the plague was carried by them, but not entirely by them. In fact, it was the fleas on the rats that really caused most of the damage to the population of Earth. Then there's the fact that they're dirty creatures because they like to live in sewers, feed off of trash, and so on. Well, they live underground not because they're dirty, but because they're shy. They just don't like the spotlight, and they definitely don't like the predators that are waiting for them above ground. In reality, rats are quite useful little creatures. They've been known to make good pets and can work well with others. Besides, if rats were so horrible, then why did Pixar make Ratatouille? I rest my case. Number 4. Bees. Oh yeah, bees have to be on this list. For when most people see a bee, they freak out. Granted, I freak out too. And when one got into my home recently and I couldn't figure out a way to kill it without getting stung, I nearly lost my mind. But the truth is, bees usually only attack people because you disrupt what they're doing, or you mess with their hive, which is always a big no-no. Here's a fun fact. Bees and their stingers are connected in such a way that when they lose them via stinging a human, the bee passes away. Yeah, it's literally a one-hit thing, and they're gone shortly after. So it's for this reason that bees don't go and attack humans. Sure, there are some bees that have more of a penchant for it, like killer bees, which was actually an accident of science. But on the whole, bees just want to do their best for the hive, then do whatever else is required of them. Number 3. Snakes. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? No? Don't get that reference? Never mind, let's just move on. Snakes are very much a misunderstood creature, mainly because people focus on the facts about snakes that are convenient, such as snakes are poisonous and they can harm you. And they can, but only a select few. Most snake bites will hurt, but they won't do any devastating damage. In fact, just about 90% of all snake bites happen because the snake was provoked by a human either intentionally or unintentionally, like stepping on them accidentally. I'm sorry, but if I get stepped on, I might lash out too. When you really think about it, snakes are cool creatures. Their long bodies are able to do wonders without the needs of arms and legs. Their tongues can detect both prey and predators, and they have near-perfect body control, allowing them to appear to be floating in midair as long as they're attached to something. Like many animals on this list, if you leave a snake alone, it's not going to hurt you. Number 2. Sharks. Dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. Yes, you think of a shark, you likely think about Jaws, or The Meg, or Sharknado. But let's be honest, if you think about those films, you have other issues. Sharks are known to be the terrors of the ocean, and to a degree, that's true. But when you look at the numbers, you would actually see all that they don't do as much as you see what they do do. They're very misunderstood. First and foremost, sharks are fascinating creatures in the biological sense. Their bodies were made to be apex predators, which you may think makes them outright scary, but that's only if you're a fish, not a human. For example, hammerhead sharks can see in 360 degrees, so nothing can sneak up on them because they can see everything. Mako sharks adapted their bodies to match one of their prey so that they can move faster than them. Great whites have the ability to leap out of the water and launch themselves higher and higher into the air. I mean, it's incredible. But here's the key thing. Most shark species aren't aggressive. Great whites, bull sharks, hammerheads, sometimes makos, and maybe a few others. But then there's also nurse sharks, lemon sharks, sand sharks, whale sharks, and a ton of other species that are incredibly docile. In fact, the 3 largest shark species in the world are completely non-predatory. Do shark attacks happen? Yes. 88 occurred in 2017, 5 of which were fatal. But that's it. Given how society looks at them, you'd think they'd be happening by the hundreds, and that's just not the case. Number 1. Wolves. It's hard to argue that the most misunderstood animal in the world is a wolf. Sure, sharks are widely considered dangerous by many, but that's honestly because of pop culture more than anything else. Wolves are considered dangerous by culture as a whole, as many legends, religious texts, and even fairy tales use a wolf as a description of evil. The big bad wolf, the wolf in sheep's clothing, the wolf among us, Yes, even the boy who cried wolf. The list goes on and on. Now, if we're being completely honest, yes, a wolf is dangerous, and it's never a good idea to provoke a wolf at any time. But just because they can be dangerous doesn't mean that they're the bloodthirsty killers that people make them out to be. Wolves have good legends too, like Balto, and there are times where wolves have been just as kind to humans as they have been mean. In fact, fatal wolf attacks are very rare, if they happen at all. From 1952 to 2002, there was a grand total of 3 wolf attacks in North America. True, it's said that in Asia there were 200, but that was over the course of 50 years, which means that there was a grand total of 4 a year on average. And that's not a lot. What's tragic though is that these stories have led humans to think that wolves are such monsters that they should be killed on sight. Wolves notice this and tend to go out of their way to avoid humans, knowing that if they're spotted, they could be killed. Tell us what you think about these misunderstood animals in the comments below, and take care.